In project management, we often find ourselves scrolling through a lot of data in order to try and find trends or fix issues with our project or projects. Wouldn't it be good if you could find a way in which you could graphically demonstrate large amounts of data in a relatively small or simple diagram? This is where swarm diagrams can certainly come to play, as you can see here. And in this video, we're going to show you how this can be used using all sorts of different types of data, using the power of Python within Excel in order to bring this about. Now, while this example is focused in a project management scenario, the actual method in producing a swarm diagram can apply to any situation. Now you can see here that I have grabbed a whole lot of data from Microsoft Project. A lot of these headings will be quite familiar to us. Now in this scenario, we're going to use a swarm diagram as we might in perhaps a lessons learned or a project evaluation situation. So we are keen to see how task durations fared when compared with the originally set up baseline duration. And we're going to do that by looking at the responsible team or responsible person for each of those tasks. Now, in a previous video, I put together a drop-down menu for a responsible team lead for each task, and that was particularly useful where you have situations where you have multiple team members on the one task. And we're also interested too as to whether the task was on the critical path or not, because this will give us some interesting insights. So with that in mind, we're not really interested in start, finish, resource names, all the way through to actual finish. So we can effectively hide those tasks. Now what we do want to do is put together a difference between the baseline duration and the duration. Now to do that, we're going to add a new column. Now that our column is added, we're going to label this as baseline difference. Now what we need to do is effectively put together a simple formula to subtract the duration from the baseline. Now to do that, we are going to ask Excel to remove the word day or days out of these columns so that we're simply left with a numeral. So to do that, you can simply go find and select replace, and we're going to replace day with nothing, so replace all. We've made 60 replacements, and you can see we have been left over with an S, so we're going to remove the S and replace all. That has removed all the letters out of those cells that we don't need, and as we scroll down you can see there are no more days or days left. Now simply we'll ask Excel to subtract the duration from the baseline duration, which is a simple formula. Now we'll carry that down to the bottom, so all of our data is covered. Now, so what we've done is wherever there's a negative value, it will indicate that we were behind schedule, or the duration was behind what was originally planned in the baseline. If you have a 0, you are right on the baseline, or if you have indeed a positive number, that would indicate that we took less time than originally planned. So let's get in the business of putting together our swarm diagram using Python. Now, as I mentioned before, you don't have to be a Python expert, and you can effectively copy the formula that I'll also include in the video description. So to activate Python, go to your formulas and then insert Python. So here is the data here. So you'll need to import the library as per the first line, second line, where in the spreadsheet the data actually is, so between columns A and N. And here is where we mold or put together our swarm diagram. We want the x-axis to highlight who is responsible for the particular task, and we want the y-axis to show a series of values for both negative and positive, which highlight the baseline difference. To launch that, you simply go Control Enter. Now about 30 to 40 seconds had passed, so you'll notice here that Python has indicated there is an image. Right click on that image and display plot over cells. And here is our swarm diagram. And you can see that it tells us a little bit about how the project had actually played out. You can see that for the majority of Joanne's tasks, they were either on target or on the baseline, according to the 0 value there, or where there was a positive value, you can see that it was actually completed under time. However, if you look at John here, half of his tasks that he was responsible for did actually go beyond what was estimated in the baseline. And you can see one of Peter's tasks there was actually 10 days over. So this gives us a bit of valuable information in order to approach these team leaders and to ask the right questions, without it being too much of a witch hunt. Now let's take this a little further and see what happens if we add the critical tasks into this mix to see what extra value this can tell us about how the project went. Go back to the cell where the Python code exists, and after the y-axis we're going to add a new command, HUE equals, and inverted commas, critical. We're going to ask Python to highlight the tasks that were actually on the critical path. Inverted commas, and then to complete the formula, go Control Enter. And you can see here that it gives us a little bit more detail as to how things played out. So while half of John's tasks were longer than originally estimated, these would have had an overall effect on the project because they sat on the critical path. Whereas with 3 of Joanne's tasks, even though they were a little late, they were not on the critical path and would not have affected the overall project. This gives us a little bit more detail, doesn't it, when it comes to what the swarm diagram can do for us and how we can use it in a project management framework. So I'm sure you'd agree that this is, while we only used a small amount of data in this particular situation, this could be particularly useful where you have multiple projects and large projects with numerous amounts of data in order to try and find trends and identify where things could be improved or possibly enhanced in your project management. So a swarm diagram is a very, very neat tool to add to your project management toolbox. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe or comment, and happy project management.